Good morning, everyone. Live from Mobile World Congress 2026 at Deloitte booth. My name is Hugo. I lead the Telecoms Specialty Center. With me, I have Raul leading our BSS practice and excited to talk about OSS and BSS in an agentic AI world. So, in reality, why the topic? Pretty much OSS and BSS have been under transformation for several years at telecoms operators. And the reason for that is because the industry pretty soon found out that a vast majority of the spending on OSS and BSS in reality was spent on either integration or customizations. So managing the legacy instead of innovation. And this was jeopardizing the journey from communication services provider to digital services provider. Now, the industry has been working on that topic for several years now, trying to disrupt silos, moving the architecture to cloud native, pretty much enabling data to be used at a much larger scale, supporting new pricing models, ultimately launching several foundational pieces on moving from CSP to DSP. However, that journey definitely has not ended, as we are going to see throughout the presentation, and now comes an agentic era. And one of the key topics in Mobile World Congress this year is the impact of agentification in many domains, one of them being OSS and BSS. So several questions arise. The first one is, should we stop our transformation journey due to agentification and we need to fully rethink it? And that brings immediately three additional questions. So what is the role of agentification in OSS and BSS? Should we evolve incrementally or totally reinvent it? And last but not least, obviously, where to start and how to start that journey. Goal. So let's start answering these questions in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Sure.
What is the role of agentification on OSS and BSS stack?
Yeah, so in terms of architecture, this is a bit of a zoom out of your typical architecture that you see. And so this represents the different layers that we see appearing. And so at the top, you'll have what we call the human or the user-centric layer. And this is where all the strategy will be defined, all the governance and oversight of the agents will happen, the agents and the systems. On the bottom, you see what is still typically your network systems and your network elements. And on top of that, what we call the transactional layer, which is your typical BSS and OSS system. So these systems will still remain to exist, so they won't disappear from one day to another because we have agents. But we see a new layer appearing, which is the agentic operating layer or agent fabric in some terminology that is used in the industry as well. And so these agents will sit on top of those systems, and will be able to reason and interact with these systems, allowing the intelligence to shift upwards. So the BSS and OSS can become much more simpler because much of the logic and the intelligence will be shifted upwards to your agentic layer. So this is a paradigm shift because these agents will have the ability to, one, interact with different BSS and OSS systems and also across domains. And so this will allow us to have end-to-end and cross-domain orchestration that has been a challenge historically for telcos up until now. And so, this is how we see things evolving. And let's see how in terms of... so also, let me just add that one important thing that telcos should also be working on is on the agent fabric. You'll have these agents coming from different sources, let's say. So some of them will be developed internally. Some of them can be sourced by vendors or some BSS stacks. And so we need to guarantee that these agents are able to communicate with all these backend systems, but also between themselves. And so the industry is already developing some standards in terms of MCP and also in terms of agent-to-agent communication. And investing in those early will allow you to coordinate these agents in a more efficient way in the future. So let's see what capabilities we need to develop to achieve this architectural shift.
Definitely. So looking a little bit on the stack as of today, we can highlight sort of three different characteristics that obviously are not equal in all operators. So there are gradients, let's say, of autonomy within these layers. But let's say that still there is very significant manual intervention and rule hard coding on both OSS and BSS as of today. Many of the decisions, or the majority of them, still reside in silos, and the use cases are not yet totally end-to-end and not focused on end-to-end service. So pretty much decisions are taken from a product standpoint or from a network domain standpoint, not focusing on end-to-end service, for instance. And pretty much the operations are based on static workflows, which means that if something falls out by exception out of those workflows, pretty much that disrupts operations. Operations are very much driven to fixed, predefined processes, and this is something that, as we are going to see, is going to shift dramatically with agentification. Now, we are not saying that as of today, there is not already some degree of autonomy and there is not a lot of AI already ongoing on networks. That is not the case at all. But agentification is a new paradigm, as Raul stated, that will lead to the tomorrow. And Raul, what's the tomorrow?
Yeah, so again, as Hugo was saying, so instead of having this very reactive and manual way of working where you are reading alarms and you're looking at dashboards and monitoring quality and reacting to that, you will move to a world where these agents can, so they will be receiving and being fed live data and will on the fly react to that data and have a much more flexible and immediate impact on assurance, on customer care, on fulfillment, etc. And so that will lead to a few different use cases. So, for example, because agents are context aware, they will adapt their offerings to what they are reading from the customer context, from the network context, etc. And so that will lead to much more personalized operations to your customers and also in the network. You will move from having these very static and deterministic flows that are very rigid, where you have to define all the rules and all the business rules and workflows, to a world where these agents have the ability to reason and to derive intent from much more high-level prompts, and will have the ability to communicate with these systems and orchestrate workflows in a much more flexible way. And so that will also drive simplicity in the operation. And also in terms of, let's say, quality of the network, the ability to, again, react in a proactive way, in a preventive way, without having to react to a fault or anything like that, will have a major impact on the assurance part of things. And so, this will impact all the layers: customer care, BSS operations, network quality. But again, we need some sort of framework to know if we are ready to make that or not. And so, Hugo, do you want to dive on that?
So, as Raul stated, these are very significant shifts, and obviously foundations need to be right. So, some of the foundations for agentification are pretty much common also to other forms of AI. So, topics which are mandatory are obviously strategy, roadmap, measuring the business benefits, estimating them, and obviously having a journey that is prioritized. Obviously, having a technological architecture that is not legacy and enables for easier integration based on APIs, which we saw on the architecture, and also MCP and obvious agent to agent, that is also extremely relevant. And obviously, data. So if the data governance, data quality, single source of truth, if that's not in place, obviously no form of AI will work. However, agentic brings in new challenges, a new culture, and that means pretty much that the teams need to be enabled, and you need to have the right agentic AI governance and a culture of both at the same time innovation, but at the same time respect for guidelines and guardrails. And this has been a hot topic throughout Mobile World Congress this year. Another one is obviously if the capabilities on OSS and BSS change, and if they become simplified, but at another side, new players come in to develop agents, obviously the ecosystem and the partners need to change. again, the teams need to be enabled on those ecosystems. And last but not least, obviously, an op model that is based on autonomy, that is based on orchestration, that has guardrails, as I commented, but that moves the way operations work towards autonomy, and autonomy from ordering to assurance, which is obviously a very significant shift based on policy-driven orchestration, which is extremely relevant. Now, the industry is taking significant steps in this direction, but when screening the market perception is that there is still a lot to be done to have these foundations set up correct. Okay, cool. Having said that, believe that the good news is that you don't need to launch all the foundations and then start delivering value. How to manage at the same time foundations and value delivery.
Exactly. So we had some organizations come to us with questions like, should I stop my transformation program that has begun last year? Should I wait and see what happens before embarking on my transformation? So the simple answer is waiting is really not an option. But the good news is that we are successfully working with some of our clients to make this journey happen. And how we are doing that is, on one hand, on the top side, you have a more waterfall-ish way of working where you define your strategy. So we've seen a lot of organizations struggle with scattered use cases here and there that are not really connected and are very exploratory, and organizations are struggling to scale those. And so we think it's important to work on your strategy and know where you're going to work then on these, of course, starting with POCs and etc., but in assertive way and knowing where you're going. And so on the top, you have this very waterfallish way of working where you will understand domain by domain, area by area, what your different maturities, because within complex organizations, you can have different maturities in different teams and different domains. And so you need to know where those are, and also know which use cases you will invest on and which ones will drive more impact. And of course, you put that on the roadmap and then understand how they will come together in the end. And then in terms of development, you will have a much more agile way of working, but at least you have the roadmap. And then you will have sprints, POCs, MVPs, etc., in a much more agile way of working and delivery that allows you to deliver this value in a much more rapid way. So how are we doing that?
Yeah, pretty much an hybrid approach where you launch the foundations on top and you manage that journey, while in parallel you are already delivering value based on the necessary maturity. Now, we are delivering, and we are excited to deliver this at scale in an accelerated way with our customers. One of the things that we have in our booth shown this year at Mobile World Congress is the agentic AI blueprint for telecoms, which is a blueprint that contains pretty much 4 components that accelerate projects at scale with our customers for fast delivery, fast value realization. So first, a tool that enables us to engage with customers and, based on quick data that we retrieve from customers, identify the size of the prize and where the benefits are in terms of agentification. Another tool where we need to assess the capabilities within the customers, because that foundational component is crucial and because that will drive what in terms of transformation needs to be done. And then 2 blocks that are totally focused on delivering agents at speed and accelerating delivery. 1, which pretty much translates workflows and processes from the customers to the blueprints themselves, so that you can design the agents that are going to replace the current workflows. And another one, which is an agent builder that pretty much deploys those agents for fast testing, fast value delivery. And this is basically the way we are engaging with customers. Excited to invite you to visit our booth here at Mobile World Congress, or if you are offline and you see us, for instance, on the social networks, visit our website and get to know further. It's been a big pleasure, Raul. Thank you. I've enjoyed this moment. Hope it has been useful and interesting for everyone. Thank you. See you next year.